rest in peace. Signed, Apostle Sonia Ejogu and Senior Leader Raphael Ukudiri Ejogu on behalf of the family.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Yes, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human
on the point of order.
Honorable
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Welcome back. Today on Anchor's Chat, we look at protest. Is it a viable strategy to achieving objectives in Nigeria? Now, a group of bakers in the country on Monday kicked against the nationwide strike declared by some of their counterparts. Starting on Tuesday, Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of Nigeria announced on February that it is poised to begin a nationwide strike on February 27 unless the federal government honors the agreement made with the association in 2020. It also called for the temporary suspension of all types of taxation on the bakery industry at the federal, state, and local government levels. In a statement announcing the strike, the national president of AMBCON, Mansour Omar, said the Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of Nigeria have critically assessed the state of the business operation, consequently demand the liberalization of flour and sugar importation, reduction or total removal of import duties on major baking materials such as flour, yeast, butter, as applicable to other commodities as have been recently done by the federal government, and the provision of concessionary forex exchange to flour millers and other stakeholders, as well as reduction of tariff on imported wheat and sugar. The association also called for setting up of a price control and monitoring committee as allowed by the Constitution as amended, and other conditions that will enhance the ease of doing business in the country. However, in a statement on Monday, some bakers under the umbrella of Supreme Bakers and Confectioners Association of Nigeria said embarking on a strike at a time Nigerians are going through a lot is uncalled for and could exacerbate the situation. The association's acting national president, Edmond Ebuji, urged all members of the group not to participate in the strike. Now, this is on the heel of the NLC strike that begins today, despite calls from different quarters to abort the protests. Now, we are looking at, is it a viable strategy to achieving objectives in Nigeria? Protest has a history in Nigeria. Nigeria has been built, in fact, it appears as if Nigeria as a country has been built around protest and agitation, starting from the colonial era. Now, during the colonial era, in the eastern region of Nigeria, came out to protest against high taxation imposed on them by the then colonial masters. And when this protest started, it started as pockets of protest, and over time it spread across the eastern Nigeria. Now, when the protest got to Aba, then in the then eastern Nigeria, it spread. In fact, at that time, that was what gave rise to Aba Women Riot of 1929, when women hit the streets in their thousands, demanding that the colonial masters, as the case may be, remove taxation, one from women, and also remove the imposition of high taxation upon the people. This protest continued. It spanned a period of years. And at the end of the day, the government, colonial masters at that time, were able to give in to the agitations of the women at that time. That was the protest that led to Aba Women's Riot. Did it achieve something? At that time, yes, it did. Now, again, in Yoruba land, during the era of Warren chiefs, also during the colonial era, they had this, the Alafin. The Alafin at that time, had a very strong monarchical influence and power, but his influence was also regulated by a council. Now, they had a history, according to what history said. When the council sees that the Alafin is not doing well, or the Alafin is weak, or the Alafin is unable to do his, fulfill his obligations and responsibilities, they usually send him a calabash. And what that calabash means invariably is that he should commit suicide. So history has it that the son of Sango at that time was sent a calabash by a warlord. And that brought an end to the rule of the son of Sango at that time, according to history. Now, also moving forward during the colonial areas, the women of Abeokuta also, embarked on their own type of protests. And that protest at that time was also agitating against taxation on women. And that protest was led by Olufunmilayo Ransom Kuti. This was again by the women. And Olufunmilayo Ransom Kuti was arrested and charged £1,000 for organizing that protest. And that even exacerbated the whole situation. The move of the government to stop the women exacerbated the whole situation, and over 10,000 women, Olufunmilayo Ransom Kuti mobilized over 7,000 to 10,000 women to protest, and that protest continued until the government had to listen. It brought the government, it made the government, the colonial masters at that time to listen, and the levies were removed. The taxation on women was removed, and that was also championed by a woman called Olufimayo Ransom Kuti. Now, moving forward to military regime, there were pockets of protest even during the military regime. Do not forget, there was a protest that broke out that was orchestrated by students at that time when their meal ticket was raised from 50 kobo to 1 naira 50 kobo. That's very interesting. 1 naira 50 kobo for a meal at that time. And the students started protesting against that tyrannical imposition by the government. And because, of course, it was a military regime, a lot of students were killed. But that did not deter the students. They continued with the protest until they were given attention, and what they were pleading for to a large extent was the government had to listen. The military regime at that time had to listen. That is one of the so many protests that happened even during the military regime, when people did not enjoy the dividends of democracy that Nigerians are enjoying now, when Nigerians were not free, when the media, the press was gagged. You know, there were still protests agitating for against wrong policies, making the government or the military regime at that time, the military junta, to listen to the people. Do not also forget that the democracy we enjoy now was also occasioned by protests. Now, during the Babangida regime, a protest erupted and people were agitating. In fact, calls were being made for democracy. And the Babangida regime at that time was not listening. But at some point, you know, it escalated and protests erupted across different parts of the country. It did take lives, of course. The military did clamp down on people, but the people did not back down. And, you know, as a result of that agitation, Babangida, during that time, that was when the electoral system started. That was when Babangida formed the electoral system that will take care of elections in Nigeria. But however, having formed the electoral system did not do much about it. However, the protest still continued. And at some point, Abacha took over. And when Abacha took over, Abacha was to actually conduct election, but based on one-party system. Now, prior to that time, elections did hold, and MKO Abiola emerged the winner of that democratic election. However, the election was cancelled on the ground that MKO Abiola declared himself the winner. The argument was that he should have allowed the electoral umpire to declare him the winner. But he, perhaps out of excitement, or perhaps there were no ground rules, no rules of engagement as to how this thing should be done, MKO Abiola declared himself the winner. And as a result, the election was cancelled. And that gave rise to a massive protest in 1993 that continued, that spanned years. Now, when Abacha took over, Abacha decided that, okay, it was time to do the elections. Let's have elections again. Now, Abacha planned elections, but it was on a one-party system. That election did not succeed, and Abacha died. And Abdulsalami Abubakar took over the military regime from where Abacha left off. Now, it was Abdulsalami Abubakar that actually did elections in Nigeria. And factual, that was when PDP was formed. Now, elections happened, and then that was what paved way for Olusegun Obasanjo, who was once a military head of state, became a civilian and ran for elections and won, and he became a civilian governor, a civilian president in Nigeria. Now let's look at how Labour was formed. Labour was formed as a result of the railway workers' protests. They protested against their welfare package, they protested against their working conditions. And when the protest escalated, at some point, it gave rise to a movement. That protest gave rise to a movement, and that movement is what we call Nigerian Labour Congress today. So when you look at the history of protests, this idea does not by any means cover all the protests in Nigeria. These are just few examples of protests that have spanned from the colonial era to the military regime, and now we are in democracy. And pockets of protests are still breaking out. Let's even look at the Goodluck Jonathan's regime. During Goodluck Jonathan's regime, when the president wanted to remove fuel subsidy, there was protest across the country. Nigerians would not have it. And of course, the opposition at that time took advantage of that particular policy that the president wanted to, embark on. And there was strong protest against the government of the day at that time. Also, there were protests during the era of Goodluck Jonathan over insecurity. Do not forget, they bring back our girls that was spearheaded by Obi Ezekwesili. Now, when you look at protest, has always been a form of expression by the masses. Protest has always been a way to make the government listen, especially when the masses have been talking and the government appears not to listen. Protest is the way of making the government to reconsider their priorities and understand that they are saddled with the responsibility to take care of the masses. Protests, on one side, if not properly handled, can lead to a revolt. That is the bad side, the downside of protest. If not properly handled, it can lead to a revolt. And I guess that is one of the concerns of the Tinubu-led administration right now, and the DSS calling out and telling Nigerians that there is a possibility, telling NLC not to embark on a protest, on a planned protest on the 27th and 28th of February, because there are concerns that this protest might be hijacked by mischief makers. Now, this concern might be valid because across the country, pockets of protest seems to be breaking out here and there over hunger, not insecurity this time around, but over hunger, high cost of living, inability of the masses to afford basic needs in the country. So pockets of protests have been coming up here and there in different states. And also it has been reported in 1 or 2 states that protests turned violent. So there is legitimate concern on the part of the government that this protest, which is going to span over 36 states of the Federation, that it might be hijacked. That can also be a very legitimate concern. However, this is where the role of the police comes in. And it's also in a fortunate turn of events, Femi Falana has written to the Attorney General of the Federation asking for a release of the police to ensure that this protest is peaceful and is done according to the law. Now, it's also important to note that it is a planned protest by an organized labor. So now, also, the responsibility falls upon Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress to ensure that their affiliates behave in a manner that is seen to align with the constitution of the country, to behave in a manner that will not cause violence or that will not cause unnecessary unrest in the country. Now, the interesting thing about this protest, against what a lot of Nigerians are thinking about, the protest is not about the ultimatum right now. The protest is about the hardship in the country. That's what the protest is all about by NLC, the hardship in the country and how it has affected the citizens of the country especially the workers, the affiliates of Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress. Fingers crossed as the protest begins today, and hopefully the government would listen to the cry of Nigerian masses. The government will listen to Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress. The government will have to call them for a conversation, a dialogue, whatever it is that needs to be done. But with the way the country is going, it is important at this point in time that the government understands that the protest in itself is a form of expression, while we also use this medium to call upon the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress to ensure that this protest is done in a peaceful manner. That will be all on Anchor's Chat this morning. Do stay tuned. When we come back from this break, we'll dive right into the stories. Don't go away.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing. You human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Welcome back. I have with me on the show Mr. Emi Fehaha. Mr. Emi Fehaha is a socio-political analyst. It's a pleasure to have you this morning.
This pleasure is mine, and viewers, I'm happy to be here.
And I also have Mr. Oscar Savior. Mr. Oscar Savior is also a socio-political analyst. Good morning, Mr. Oscar.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Same here.
And on to the stories. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reassured all Nigerians that his administration will put a Marshall Plan in place and fashion out the best economic future for this country. Expressing concern over the welfare of ordinary Nigerians, Tinubu stressed the need for government at all levels to ensure that such persons were not disappointed. He spoke at a meeting with members of the Tripartite Economic Advisory Committee at Aso Villa. The members are drawn from the federal government, states, and organized private sector. Vice President Kashim Shettima, Chief of Staff to President Femi Wajabamila, and Governors Dapo Abiodun and Charles Soludo were at the meeting. Also in attendance were Wale Edun, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Atiku Bugudu, Budget and Planning, Abubakar Kyari, Agriculture and Food Security Minister, and Mohammed Idris, Information and National Orientation. Some of the private sector players at the meeting included Chairman of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, Chairman of the BUA Group, Abdul Samad Rabiu, Chairman of S Holdings, Tony Elumelu, Group Chief Executive Officer of Pandora PLC, Wale Tinubu, Managing Director of Metrics Group, Abdullabi Aliu, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivative Company, Bismarck Rewen, and Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Shegun Ajayi Kader. It was gathered from sources close to the meeting that some of the committee members would accompany the president to a business and investment forum in Qatar. One of the sources explained that Tinubu sought the cooperation of the invitees in making his economic diversification plan a reality. According to him, the president believes that the invitees, especially the governors and business moguls, could woo both local and foreign investors. He said, "It is essentially a meeting to seek the cooperation of the business community and mobilize them around government policies and drive more investments from both local and foreign investors. Some of them will also follow him to Qatar on a state visit and be part of the Business and Investment Forum in Qatar." He quoted the president as saying, "Let us look at what we are doing right and what we are doing wrong to bring life back to the economy. As I said many times, the people of this country are the only people who we have to please, and we're very much concerned from the students to mothers and fathers, farmers, the traders, and realizing that every one of us will have to fetch water from the same well. We are looking for additional efforts that might help the downtrodden Nigerians, and we will provide that hope and reassurance that economic recovery is on its way." Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty of the meeting, what is your take on the persons that President Tinubu invited as the advisory committee for economic rejuvenation, if I may use that word? Mr. Oscar, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning once again. It's a good thing always being here. It's so sad. Should I call it a sad reality that at this point where Nigerians should be thinking of how to go forward, we are still retrogressing and then still not thinking of about how the 200 millions or something Nigerians will live up to expectations and then live beyond the poverty line. It becomes a sad situation that every government or most of the government that have been in place in Nigeria, the first thing they think about is how to impoverish Nigerians, make the poorer become more poorer, and make the richer becomes more richer than expected. It has become a sad reality. Why our mothers and fathers and ourselves suffered in abject poverty in the village, why we find it difficult to make ends meet, some people choose food around to dogs. The poor go to the dustbin to pick food from the backyard of a rich man. That's the kind of sad situation we face in this country. It's unfortunate that up to this moment, 21st century, that Nigeria government have not decided to set up a standard on how to make Nigerians better than the way it is now. It is no longer a competitive sector. Actually, it was supposed to be a competitive sector that any government that was in place should think of how to do better than the previous government. It is not like that in Nigeria. What we think about in Nigerians is if you do not loot from this other ministry or this other sector, that means you omitted the looting process. So you think about how you are going to loot and then make yourself richer than the people you represent.
Okay.
And that is why in our country today, the situation we practice is so sad that you see a government official be buying a property where you ask yourself, where do you have such a salary to acquire such a wealth? And nobody questions the wealth of any big man or a political leaders in Nigeria, because it is assumed that once you become the aims of affair in this country, the first thing you do is how to acquire wealth for yourself, for your generation, unborn generation, and generation unborn. Now look at the people that the president has appointed.
All right.
And now look at their criteria and their credibility. Are they actually people that have set a standard ever since, even those that belong to private sector? Do they have a standard for themselves? It's unfortunate that even the people that are supposed to be held responsible at this point in time, what we are looking at is they are just standing on the same level of failed system. What happens to our agency that was set up in place to investigate and arrest, investigate and prosecute those that are supposed to have been prosecuted? Those that have what it takes and have not delivered. Why do we have only one sector producing salt? Just one company. You are producing salt in this country. Just the same company, you are producing cement. Just the same company, you are producing flour. Just the same country, you are producing every sector in this country. Only one person being in charge of all the situation. Just one man. And then you expect hardship not to come in place. Why, if you talk about diversification of economy, I want to think of how to reduce the people from hardship. Why don't you diversify the system, especially our economic situation? If the president means well for the people of Nigeria, I'm quite sure this set of people that the president has put up together will not be the same set of people that the president will be looking at to make Nigeria go forward. The set of people that the president has actually set up in the advisory committee are not those that mean well for Nigerians. What has been the opportunity, or what has been the outcome or the benefit of Dangote and that of Aniston and Belun could be given out charity organizations, but that's not even enough. Now the federal government or the others that are actually in charge, that are in this committee, what are they doing? What is Dangote actually being in charge of so many manufacturing companies? Just the Dangote's company in charge of so many manufacturing companies, and this is a continual process. What is so special about Dangote? Is there anything so special about Dangote that Nigeria must leverage on the success of Dangote, or because he has become a bank for all dubious politicians in the country? He has become a sector where the dubious politicians decide to invest their money into. Most of the prominent politicians in Nigeria invest their money into Dangote. And that's a very serious challenge. We cannot continue investing our national economy into one man and then seeing him as the richest man in this country. What does Dangote do as a rich man? So we must call on our president that Nigerians are suffering. 200 million Nigerians are lacking mentorship at this point in time. The morals we are practicing in terms of government is not what is expected. So I think President President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not setting a record for success. He's not setting a record for him to achieve successfully in this governance. I think the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, does not feel any pain that Nigeria cries out on the street. If the president feel the pains of 2,200,000 Nigerians, I'm quite sure the president will sit back or sit up and look at the sufferings, especially as they affect our economy. And now the situation we are talking about, you're talking about insecurity. It's not from the economic situation of the country. You're talking about every other sector. That's from the economical aspect of Nigeria, which is not well standard. So if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants to do better, he should go back and look into the advisory committee. Because those that have been set up into the advisory committee are the same set of people that was leading the economy until now. Nothing good has come out of it. So why are you working with the same set of people?
Well, if I may ask you, you made a statement. You said that politicians are banking into Dangote.
Sure.
Now, don't you think that that allegation, because it's an allegation, is not substantiated? You're making strong allegations on national television. Can you substantiate that?
You see, over the years, you ask yourself some questions, And I ask again, we have the Blowout cement that is not in circulation. And then we also have Dangote cement. And we also have the Ibeto. How come are these companies are not being able to meet up the demands of Nigerians? Why are they not being able to meet up the demands of Nigerians? Why is Dangote cement more circulatory than the Ibeto? Why is Dangote cement more circulatory than the Bua? Why is it that way? If you go to our villages, if you go to our different areas, you see Dangote cement in all looks and crannies of Nigeria. Okay. But you cannot find that Ibeto in our areas.
But that doesn't mean that politicians are investing their
Now, I'm actually coming to that. Now, we come to salt. The salt we use in cooking. Dangote is in charge of the salt we use in cooking. Is it only Dangote that can actually produce this salt? Now, it comes to flour. Dangote. When it comes to Indomie, Dangote. Every other aspect is Dangote. Now, the president have decided to also make him part of the committee looking into this affair. Do you think the president mean well for Nigerians? Now, going forward, if others have not invested in Dangote, we talk about refinery. Dangote actually built a refinery that we were expecting by now. This refinery will start producing according to what we heard from them. But as we speak, we have how many refineries that we said was set to function, yet we still have fuel at the increase. And Dangote refinery company, which actually have not been completed, but was commissioned to be completed. Now, it has not been completed, but has been commissioned to be completed. Now, as we speak now, Dangote, if actually means well for Nigerians, having the fuel aspect becoming on the high side, and we have how many refineries? We have Dangote refinery, we have Port Harcourt, how many refineries in Port Harcourt, and then we have Kaduna, we have Warri refinery. Yet, we still take our crude outside this country to refine and bring back as fuel. Okay. Is this a country that wants to move forward? Right. We produce this crude. We are responsible for this crude. Right. In the Niger Delta, just 4 states, in Niger Delta, River State, Bayelsa, Delta State, Akwa Ibom State, are responsible more for this oil producing state. Okay. Now, the other states that are involved are political. Now, if we look at it from that aspect, if we have 4 major states or 5 major states producing oil that is the country is using, now you are now exporting this crude outside Nigeria to be refined, then what is the duty or the functions of those private refineries and government owns refinery? All right. We are talking about economic blueprint. Does it mean the president or the current president does not have an economic blueprint? Because if the president has an economic blueprint, there are several sectors that the president would have looked into beyond political lines. The wife of the president, Bola Tinubu, his wife said that they were coming to use the wealth they have to actually make Nigerians better. And they are not supposed to leverage on Nigeria's economy. But is that statement actually true? That statement is totally an insult and a mockery to Nigerians. Okay. The wife of the president cannot make a statement as provocative as that, and you are not implementing it. Right. Why do you make such a statement and you're not implementing it?
Okay, Mr. Oscar. Okay, Mr. Oscar. Let me come to you, Mr. Emi. In the first place, do you want to respond to Mr. Oscar? Because I saw you trying to respond to him. And secondly, if you respond to him, I also want your opinion on the persons that President Bola Tinubu has, used as his advisory committee members.
Viewers, it's a great day. I don't need to respond to what
Mr. Oscar said.
This is democracy. Democracy, endows us with the right to hold opinions. Whatever he says, I believe is his own opinion. So I'm not me, to respond to what he said. But there is also need, we clarify 1 or 2 issues. We'll put them, because there are people who want to learn. I believe there are students who are taking record as well. There are those who already know. Because if we push some of this information there, and some of these students who are maybe doing 1 or 2 projects and making their research, they jot their down and at the end they feature them into their own project topic, and when you reading through, you just marvel. Actually, this one, a graduate or somebody who wants to graduate from the university. You see, from the persons of the members of the advisory committee are so invited by the president. I think many of them, they rose from nothing to somebody in terms of the business and enterprises. A person like Aliko Dangote that we're talking about, he started from the scratch. Even in Egypt at the time, Aliko Dangote sold sweets, buy sweet in pouch, and today is where he is. Who doesn't know Bismarck Wine in the business sector and the economy of Nigeria? You know Bismarck Wine is a known name. When you talk about the Nigerian economy in the private sector, these are names. These are people who have cabbage for themselves. You know, out of the nothing, they are where they are today. You look at Sae, the owner of Boa, Tony Elumelu. These are people who have made something for themselves in the private sector. So personally, they have done something. They are no names. They are not people you thought, you joke with when you talk about the private sectors of the Nigeria state. That is for that. Then, as for some of these other propositions, I think Dangote Refinery actually producing now. They have even exported diesel and some other product recently. So that is what I just wanted, to push for in terms of clarity. Then, as for the members of the committee, I don't have problem that the president invited them based on their achievement individually in the private sector. It is expected or believed that there are people of experience. The wealth of experience lies with them if you want to drive the private sector based on their achievement that we've seen, that we are still seeing. So you can actually seek their advice. Where I have issue is the kind of economy that the Nigeria state, recommended in view of the law that we see as a grown norm in the society. And this orientation that is away from the grown norm is also driven by the Nigerian people, not just the big men, but the poor men. Most times the big people, I always use the word big, because in Nigeria there is a lot of disparity between the rich and the poor. So the big people usually use even the poor people, the small people, to achieve their economic aim, unknowingly to the Nigerian people. Nigeria, if you look at the constitution, you look at the economic objectives, you look at the political objective, the social objective, as enshrined in the constitution, Nigeria is not a capitalist state. But often a time you hear Nigerians, what is the business of government in doing business? So when I hear this thing, I just look at them. And these are the kind of agitation, support that actually, elevated some of these people that many people are also criticizing today. You will borrow Nigeria assets. You will borrow Nigeria goods into the hands of few. Unconsciously, by your support and by your demands. And today the government leverage on those opportunities over the years and empower few. As I get the conscience of the grand norm.
Now, building on what you've said, let's just anchor that a bit. Doesn't that also validate the concerns of Mr. Oscar? We will not look at, for lack of time, we will not look at all the individuals in the advisory committee, but let's just circle on Dangote, Aliko Dangote, for example. Aliko Dangote has been criticized for running a monopolistic kind of business. Now, when Aliko Dangote, when he started his cement business, at some point, there were allegations that, used politicking and political connections to run Ibeto Cement out of business. Now, also, there is a kind of trait people have also alleged that any business he comes into appears that, little by little, his competition in that particular business tends to just wither away very silently, right? And when you look at the kind of businesses he has been doing, it appears to, and secondly, you also look at the refinery. Nigeria has over 3 refineries that are not properly functional, yet gave license to an individual to open a refinery. That's on one side. I can understand the private sector, privatization of all these things, but what I am looking at now is not the background, how poor they were and became rich. But what I'm looking at is the crux of the matter, and the reason for setting up this advisory committee is to seek their advice on diversifying the economy. However, the person of Dangote, according to concerns from different quarters, is that he runs a monopolistic kind of business. So does that actually tally with what the government wants to achieve by setting up these people as advisory committee members?
Yeah. Most of the sentiment that you are just pointed out.
These are concerns.
I'm coming. Most of these concerns, I call the sentiment, are ethnically driven.
How is it ethnic
I'm
and
coming.
religiously driven?
I'm coming. You see, when people are talking, you will hear certain names. Then prove further. In the business world, there is always a competition. This is a TV station, isn't it?
Of course.
Is it just this TV station that was given license?
No.
There are other TV stations, right? There are people who actually got the license, but they couldn't establish that this thing. Does it mean that it's ATN that forced them out of the business? So the thing now is this. When you understand what happens out there in the business environment, the competition is so fierce that if you don't take your survey to the thorough level and you make your contact to the right channels and invest in the right manner, you will fade away.
Okay.
You won't be able to stand the competition.
Fair enough.
So people like Dangote, once they want to invest, Dangote will always survey the business environment. Dangote will want to know where is the best market. How will I win the best market?
Okay.
And he will push in funds, reach out to people to invest, buy shares and all that. And Dangote will come heavily. If you cannot stand a competition, what do? You fade away. Okay. But if you can stand, what do? You look for more money and compete with Dangote. That is why you have Dangote salt. You also have other salts in the market competing. You have noodles that are competing. You have virtually all the products that are competing because those other ones also want to compete. I don't want to mention names here because I'm conversant with the business environment as it is today. The sales world and the rest of it. But mention it look as if I'm advertising them here. So what am I trying to say here? Dangote products maybe meets the satisfaction of the consumers. And consumer will always go for the product that meets their satisfaction.
All right.
Then that is for that area. Then for other area, like I really see as concerns of Nigeria that are wrongly China, is the area of saying that one person monopolized the Nigeria economy. It's not true. Dangote is not government. Dangote, you cannot separate politics from business. Politics from even religious life. That is why those of us who understand the games of the politics, who have knowledge and study in politics, we tell you that politics is ubiquitous. It is as partial and it is as temporal. So if you understand that there is politics even in business, then you will play the politics to ensure that your business, prevails and survive and meets fierce competition.
All right.
This is the issue. But the other people you are not doing it doesn't mean that Dangote actually did that. So the people who are there, for me, maybe the president thinks that they have the wealth of knowledge to advise him. But the area I'm having problem is the capitalist orientation that is killing the Nigeria economy. Nigeria is not a capitalist state. Let us go back to what the law recommends and work on the recommendation of the law. You know, the principle about life is that when you move away from principle of life, you will have so many hurdles and fight so many battles that are very unnecessary that you can avoid. But now Nigeria is moving from what is known for them and what is recommended by their law. We are now trying to be a capitalist state when our constitution actually look at socialism and also capital to an extent.
All right.
We are not doing all these things.
Okay, on to the next story. We are out of time for this. On to the next story. The Federal Executive Council has approved the implementation of part of the Stephen Orasanye panel report to merge some parastatals, agencies, and some commissions, while others will be subsumed, scrapped, or relocated. The decision was made at the Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu on Monday. This, according to the special advisor to the President on Policy Coordination, Hadiza Bala Usman, is in line with the need to reduce cost of governance and streamline efficiency across the governance value chain. Federal Executive Council also received a report from the interministerial panel set up to review the affairs of the National Social Investment Program. The Council further approved the immediate restart of the direct payments to 12 million households, comprising of 60 million Nigerians with key provisos. In 2011, then President Goodluck Jonathan set up the Presidential Committee on Restructuring and Rationalization of Federal Government Parastatals, Commissions and Agencies, with Orasaye as chairman. In April 16, 2012, the committee submitted an 800-page report identifying, among several other things, overlapping agencies causing wastage in expenditure. The report said that there were 541 parastatals, commissions and agencies, and recommended that 263 of these agencies should be reduced to 161, 38 agencies abolished, and 52 merged. Now, this is the Orasaye report, and it's looking at reducing the cost of governance by merging or relocating or even completely closing down certain parastatals. Now, is it that the statistics of over 500 parastatals in Nigeria, Mr. Amy, it seems startling. And all these parastatals have civil servants in them. Don't forget ghost workers as well. Now, the directive by the governor to implement the Orasaye report after over 10 decades, do you think it's a good move? And is it the only way the government can also cut cost of governance as well?
You see, profligacy has been part of our system. In fact, it is ingrained in our system, in the homes. From the homes where we live our lives, wastage everywhere. Some people will have property they don't need. We buy cars that we don't need. We have fleet of cars parked in our compounds. We have clothes that we don't need in our boxes. We don't wear some even in 6 months, but we buy more and buy more. Without the recourse that there are other people who actually need even 2 pairs of these shoes, these clothes that I have. It has been our system. And we must find a way to curtail or tame that attitude that dwells in us for us to have a way forward. When you look at the general society, it's kind of an example or a replica of the individual or households. The family is the unit of the larger society. So when we talk about the society, we're looking at the various units put together, which is the families. Now, this Orasaye reports or recommendations, I think is a step forward to an extent. Because you can't have government parastatals and agencies who are overlapping. In other words, you have government parastatal or agency doing the same function, playing the same role, different offices, different names, different employees working in this. These people are being paid, but at the end of the day, you compare this agent, you look at them, you actually discover they are doing the same thing. What rationale is there that we have EFCC? Then we now have ICPC. What does this mean? Is it not the same for duplication of functions? And you are paying people, you are opening offices, renting, buying cars. You know we like cars, SUV. You spend hundreds of millions to buy SUV for parastatal 1. You buy SUV for parastatal 2 who are doing the same function. So why not just, scrap one or merge it in order to save some of these resources for other projects? But we have so engaged in this wastage over time. That is why Orasaye Group, don't forget, he was head of service. He was a civil servant, so he knows the system. Majority of the corruption in Nigeria today, the fulcrum is the civil service. If you understand the evil and good the civil service is doing to the Nigerian state, then you will not understand what Orasaye is recommending. So for me, I submit to it.
Okay.
Let us streamline some of these agencies or even scrap them. You have NTA, then you have VON. What is the meaning of all this? So why don't we have EFCC, we have ICPC, we have Federal Road Safety, you know, merging together and becoming one functional and more efficient agency of government. Okay. So for me, it's good. The only area I have issue is the real matter, like what we call the nitty-gritty of the cause. Okay. The nitty-gritty of the cause of this whole problem is the attitude of the Nigeria towards public office. That is why I also have problem with the restructuring, because this is restructuring. So people who are always restructure, if you don't understand. What RSA recommended the restructuring is structural restructuring
of the civil service,
of the system, not just civil service now, of the system. So by the time this is implemented, you need to have restructure. So it's not by creation of state alone that restructure. So I support it. The nitty-gritty is the attitude. You might scrap ICPC and absorb all the workers into EFCC, or scrap EFCC and absorb all the workers into ICPC, Federal Road Safety, all combined together. You will not change the name, or you retain one of the name out of the three. We will not have EFCC, no more Federal Road Safety Commission, no more ICPC. The same Nigerian that will man these offices. The same Nigerian who will say, how much you have, they give me my own, may you go your way. Give me my own. You can go with the other one. We still take that the same attitude into the new office. That you just change the clothes, but you didn't change the person. And that the same attitude will then manifest in the system. When people talk about system, oh, Nigeria system is the system, they forget that system and man are run by humans. That is why political scientists in the 30s, when people were talking about structural restructuring or functional structural approaches and arguments, they say, no, we have looked at this structural functional argument for so long. We have restructured, we have adjusted. This system is not changing. Let us look at the behavior. And they propose what they call the behavioral argument. Okay. That look at the man that man these structures. So until Nigeria will begin to restructure their attitude, we might streamline the agencies, scrap some of them. We might not have the efficiency and the productivity that we're actually looking at, because it is the attitude that manifested in Sokoto that will also come to man the day in Sokoto.
All right. All right, Mr. Ayemi. Now, Mr. Oscar, looking at the merger of possible scrapping of some orders. Now, Mr. Ayemi raised a concern around merging and absorbing all the civil servants into the newly merged parastatal. Do you think that in any way will save the cost of governance, because it's still the same number of civil servants, the government will still be paying remuneration? Now, that's on one hand. On the other hand, isn't government going to find itself or herself in a fix and out of favor with the masses if at this time of economic hardship and crisis, the government decides to lay off some civil servants because the government needs to restructure and reduce the cost of governance? How can the government balance it up without having another crisis on its hands?
Thank you very much. I always call it the SARS situation that we face in our part of the world, Nigeria. I call it the PART system. I am not much concerned about the implications of agencies of government or all of that. I am more concerned about government policies. I am more concerned about the implementations of government policies. It's not about just to scrap or submerge some other agency of government or institutions of government. Because everybody, including me, I'm looking up to the government. How or why do I say so? The executive arms of government, the legislative arms of government, and the judiciary system of government must sit up to its expectation and standard. Until then, nothing will work. The umpire saddled with the responsibility of conducting a credible poll election should also be looked into. INEC should be scrapped first. for giving us this bad system of government, for always dishing out the wrong side of government. INEC should be scrapped. Mahmoud Yakubu was supposed to be in prison. Mahmoud Yakubu, the INEC national chairman, was supposed to be in prison. The judiciary has a question to answer. So is it just about government agency? Is it just about rendering millions of Nigerians or thousands of Nigerians jobless at this hard time?
So
you know, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. I didn't know when you were talking. We always have a situation when people must always have the right thing to be done. We have so much good policies in this country, but how effective, how standard, how implementing are these policies of government? The truth is in the hands of government. But how far has government actually implemented this fact? How far have they gone about this truth? Even when you're talking about government cost of living or government too much cost in the government hands, what about the SUVs that are national assemblies? What about the amount of money, or billions, that is spent unnecessarily in the villa? Now, as we speak right now, if we have a system that wants to do it right, because it's always said that he who goes to equity, or he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. If you want to fight corruption, you as the president, you have to resign because you came through a corrupt practice. The president must resign because he came through a corrupt practice.
You're making another allegation, Mr.
Now
Oscar.
we have a system where in Rivers State, an election was declared, someone was declared the winner. And the then governor of Rivers State, who is now the FCT minister, Basaye Sobe-Zomon-Wike, came and changed the vote. And then right now, because of the political tussle in Rivers State, there will be so much confession in the state.
But
a lot of confession, please. I don't want to interfere in my discussion.
No, hold on.
Now, there are a lot of situations that are going on in the state.
Please.
As we speak right now, a lot of persons has come out on air publicly to tell Rivers people, to tell Nigerians that they were the architect of the rigging of election, that they were the architect of ensuring that social number or social National Legislative Assembly members was elected. Well, the election was rigged in favor of social person. Now, as we speak right now, are we doing anything about it? You want to set up a standard. You must set up a standard by trying to ensure that you first do the right thing. And what is the right thing? As we speak right now, Nigerians are in a grave situation. You impoverish the people and then decide to create hardship and call it baby steps of pains. And you call this baby step. Nigerians are suffering. People cannot be able to acquire 1 square meal. Some don't even have hope on how to eat. Now we are talking about economic diversification. Now, as a president, you set up policies that you cannot implement in the favor of the poor Nigerians. Rather, you set up policies that can only be in favor of the richer or the big boys in Nigeria. None of this policy, none of this government policy has been able to be effective positively and impact positively on the lives of the people, the poor Nigerians. Now we're talking about how you're going to scrap agencies. It's not a bad one. Now, you came in before and then remove fresh subsidy without a standard. You came in before. The problem we have is that government do not set up a standard before taking up a policy. When you decide your policy, when you want to implement a policy, positively for the good of Nigerians and not for the good of the cabal. Now, you think about the millions of Nigerians that will suffer from it. These were existing agencies. These were existing. And you want to remove or scrap them, it's okay. But what standard have you set to be able to absorb, or what standard have you set to make it better than it were before? Just the same way, because we are looking at it based on the first subsidy removal. The first subsidy removal was a very good idea, and Nigerians also yearn, because according to what do you call him? According to the what do you call it? The other person, Hamza Mustafa, Major Hamza Mustafa. In one of my meetings at Asokru with Major Hamza Mustafa in his home, what did I hear from Hamza Mustafa? And Hamza Mustafa said that the millions of Nigerian currency is in the hands of 50 Nigerians. Of course, I am yet to mention those names. He said millions of Nigeria's currency is in the hands of just 50 Nigerians. That's what I was told by Hamza Mustafa. Now, as we speak, the government must think about the poor when implementing government policies. As I speak, your first approach as a Bilokon was first to remove the first subsidy. Now, when you remove the first subsidy, what was the standard created or set aside? The filling stations or the what do you call it? The
oil marketers.
No, not the oil marketers. The refineries. The refineries that was set up. Why, before removing or setting up the first subsidy remover, was there any plan that Nigeria must start refining our crude in this country? Was this refineries actually functioning before you talk about removal? Now, going forward, we want to look at a situation. We want to look at the situation of fellow Nigerians before taking up a policy. Not just government standing up or waking up one night, or just in the comfort of your Buga moment, or your celebration of celebrating Buga. As a president, people are suffering and you are dancing Buga. And you say you are a president. People are suffering, there is hardship. And the president of this country is dancing Buga in the midst of his cabals, in the midst of his friends. And you are dancing Buga. Why people are in hardship? And you think Nigeria should not come out. I think Nigeria should not speak. You want to set up a policy, and the policy you want to set up in any way has not favored Nigerians. And now you expect us to be clapping because you want to take a decision. We should compliment your effort. An effort that has not been able to liberate Nigerians from abject poverty.
Don't you think cutting cost of governance to a large extent will help?
I am not against it. I am not against the decision. I am only against the standard. What standard has government put in place to augment or to absorb those that may actually be a victim of this government restructuring? What has been the standard? Because we are looking at it from the already existing antecedent of Mr. President based on the first subsidy removal. That is the point of view. So you cannot tell me that as a president, you sit up, wake up one morning after dancing Buga, and the next thing you want to do is to talk up a decision. That's totally unacceptable by Nigerians. Now, when you look at it from that way, a lot of things are going wrong. Mahmoud has not been able to go to prison. You bring up, it came up to a corrupt practice. You must set up a standard by resigning as a president.
Now, Mr. Oscar, let me just say something there, because you're making strong allegations on national TV. Now, the aggrieved parties went to court, and the court has upheld the emergence of the president. So the court has upheld that emergence. So if you're saying anything right now, it is strong allegations as against the judgment of the court. But then let me go to Mr. Emi Feha. You have something to say, sir?
I'm supposed to respond to that before you go, because it was a person.
I've asked you that question before and you responded, but you still ended up closing your statement with that the same response. I know it's a strong allegation on national TV. You responded and you explained from the River State angle how, according to you, also alleged that the FCT minister torpedoed the
No, before you got to him, you are in River State, right?
Okay, quickly.
You live in Port Harcourt,
Just
right?
a minute.
No, you live in Port Harcourt.
Can you do that in a minute?
Now, as we speak,
yes,
we heard the National Youth Council of Nigeria, under the factional leadership of Ambassador Chijoke Yomo, came out on national TV addressing a crowd of people and mentioned how many persons election was rigged in their favor in River State, and that they were instrumental to it. Now, it did not end at that. Some other persons came out too to say so person did not win or never won the last election. But it was a Labour Party candidate that actually was supposed to be the winner. But they wrote election in favor of these persons. We are also aware, or in our State, the returning officer that declared Alex Oti the winner. We are aware of the level of calls that she came out to say, even Mahmoud called her.
Chai.
Please, I don't want to. I'm not talking to you, please.
Mr. Oscar.
Now, as we speak, we have a situation that was addressed. I listened to her, and also in River State, there was also another returning officer in River State that also ran away and are alive, and even the husband was on air. The entire family was on air, requesting for security agencies to protect the lives of their family, that his wife was also on the run because she refused to accept bribe. What has the security agencies done to protect this lady? What has Nigeria government, what has been the outcome of Rivers State government in terms of protecting this lady?
Okay.
Because we are looking at morals.
All right.
Now, if our morals or moral justification of life has been defeated by corruption, you want to fight an illegal process, you want to change a system to the better way, you must start with yourself.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Oster. Let me come to Mr. Emi. Mr. Emi, you have something to say?
It is better. Our viewers out there and people are listening to and watching us. This is a democratic government and a democratic setting that rules, which is the laws, determine what happens in the state. Action that are accepted and action that are prohibited. What is, constitutional and what is unlawful. All these are enshrined and recommended in the law. So practices are subjected to these rules as written or legislated by the recommended chamber. You see, in democratic setting, reforms are done through what? Through what the president is about doing now. You reform, you don't just shut down the state. Because shutting down the state simply means you call for anarchy or a military takeover. So what you do is to start reforms as recommended by the law. You restructure the system through processes recommended by the law. You don't change the system by telling everybody, "Yeah, run away, they will no longer exist." So the president has not done anything bad. This is what is obtainable in the most advanced democracies of the world, except to those who doesn't know. That is one. Two, the question you ask is about cutting down costs of governance in order to save money for other developmental projects
and
how the lives of the people, not just civil servants.
Who will be fired?
The people, Nigerians. You see, we can't run a system at the expense of few persons. In democratic settings, sacrifices are made in order to make the system work. Some people are sacked in order for a parastat or a commission to be efficient. Some people are employed in order to take over those places. So it's all about reforms. It has nothing to do with Yakubu. The same Yakubu that we are talking about, or the INEC, conducted an election in Anambra State in 2010 that returned one of the presidential candidates of the 2023 presidential elections as a governor of the state then. Their election was marred by protests, several allegations. In fact, in the court, it was a drama. Even the person who won that election to employ because of the fraud in the system that he saw, even his own police unit, he came back because he knows what they have done, what they're supposed to do, and he casted his ballot later. As INEC be scraps is there. So just because he favor another person does not mean the system is not okay. People can make allegations in order to set their political interest.
But issues
I'm coming, please.
INEC
you will come.
Compromising has been rife over the years.
Right from FEDECO, except people doesn't know. Right from FEDECO, the First Republic. INEC people are Nigerians now. INEC does not just compromise on his own. No political party today can stand before me. Or you said you want me to call names. And we call people who bribe, people who induce people even in Lagos State, people who induce people even in Anambra. In Anambra, were you allowed to vote in the presidential election? If you are not a supporter of a certain candidate, were you allowed? Just to wear an insignia, you can't pass through Anambra State. Or the state in the east, you will be beaten. I was coming from Abuja before the election there. We were stopped and asked us to strip ourselves of anything that has to do with other candidates, except we don't want to pass through that state. They will be beaten. We should comply. Is it not the same election? Is it not the same state? Which party was able to get a 5% vote in Anambra State? Does it mean that the other parties also exist there? So what are we saying? Has those INEC, is it on the same INEC? Has there been jailed? People can make spurious allegations just because they want to sell political. Don't forget, people are just for political recognition. Some people can make everything. Now we do this for this, we do this all to be recognized and given appointment. It's things. That doesn't mean that they are right. Did the APC candidate of the governorship election in Rivers State say that he won the election? Does it mean that he's true? What he said is true? Did other aspirants or candidates, I mean to say,
Did they say they won the senatorial election in Rivers State and the rest? Does it mean that it's true? You can only have something that is true when it is tested.
All right.
Before the law.
Okay.
And when it is threatened and proven so, it becomes truth. It's not by sentiment. Let us learn to detach sentiment from truth, from facts.
Okay.
So for me, the president has not done. Emilokon is something that we do every day. Every Nigeria do it. You go to church. I believe you are a Christian, right? You remember that song? If it not be me, who else God will bless? Are you not singing it in church? What does that? Is that Emilokon? Are you not saying God is me?
Okay, Mr.
So when you say it is me,
all right,
it doesn't mean that you've done something bad. You are only trying to promote what we are doing. So we are doing something. I don't understand.
All right.
Tinubu mean well for Nigeria with the reforms I have seen. I am not a neophyte in political system.
It's okay, Mr. Amy.
Let us follow these reforms and see what we can get.
Okay.
If there are diversion later on, we also shout. Like you talk about protest the other time. Please, just 1 minute. I will round up. 1 minute.
We're out of time.
All the protests you talk about the other time, all the protests achieved their target because there were protests that were built on solid grounds. Majority of the protests are politically, induced. People want to sell their politics and do the demolize the other person so that you promote your own. This is why protests they don't achieve anything.
Okay. We'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll look at 30 billion naira scandal. Akpabio apologizes to state governors. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
You.
Welcome back. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has apologized to state governors and asked for forgiveness for his contentious statements that the federal government gave state governments 30 billion naira for various subnational interventions meant to improve the food situation for for the citizens. Recall that Akpabio had, during the plenary on Wednesday, February 21, 2024, during the presentation of a report of the Joint Committees on Finance, Agriculture, Food Sufficiency, Banking and Insurance, accused the governors of collecting over 30 billion naira each. And this has not gone well with the 36 state governors, as they came out to attack the president of the state, denying that they never received such money from federal government. The Senate President Godswill Akpabio had said that unconfirmed intel showed that state governors received 30 billion naira each from the federation account to ameliorate inflation and the high cost of food in their respective states. Now, I am sure we are all aware of the saga that happened, and then Governor Makinde came out to address this accusation by the Senate President Akpabio that they never received. And he said he wasn't just speaking for himself, but he was speaking for other governors as well. And he said that the states never received 30 billion naira from the federal government, either through federal inland revenue or through the federal government account. So now Akpabio has come out to apologize, and he said that what he said came from unverified source. Now, for a Senate President, a man of this standing, the number 3 man of the nation. But however, he has come out to apologize. Mr. Amy, let me start with you. What is your take on this?
By the construct of our constitution, Akpabio is a number 3rd citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A person of such caliber should not be making careless statements. Their words should be authority. Their words should be something people emulate as a leader. You are not just a Senate President, you are a leader. You are meant to shaping attitude and character in the Nigeria state. So people look up to you. They want to become Senate President tomorrow. They say, like me, I want to be, if you give me President and Senate President, we should Senate President.
Okay.
That is me. Because I believe that is where we can shape it in Nigeria more. Presidency or the executive is just made to implement what we have from the National Assembly. So if I really want to do 1 or 2 things, I will choose the Senate President to enable me to contribute immensely in changing those things that I think I don't like in the Nigeria state. So if you are a Senate President, you make statements that are verified, ascertained to be so. Okay. So when you talk, your word will now become an authority. That is how leadership is driven. But we've seen over the years where leaders have become, comedians, political comedians, At the time, even in Senate, we have people singing song and dancing. In one of the, is it not the 9th Assembly? The 9th Assembly and the 8th Assembly, it was dance galore and song galore. People dancing, my Senate President, and the rest of it. So that place has become, a place, for, jokes, which is an aberration for me.
Okay.
However, I want to appeal to Nigerians. The tempo is high. There is hunger. There is a lot of despair in the Nigeria state. But it surprises me that majority of the ad bosses that we hear from Nigerians are born out of ignorance. Many Nigerians don't know how to channel their support or their rejection towards government policies. They don't even know the right quarter. I am angry. Nigeria don't know if you are angry. There is also need for you to actually, make your research on who should do what and how this thing should be done. So when you pour your anger, it will not fall on a fighter ground, to trigger some changes. But when you are angry and you pour it on the wrong, channel, it will not yield anything. The governors of Nigeria, I say this without apology. I am not Godswill Akpabio who apologize. I am saying the governors of Nigerians are holding the Nigerian hostage. The subsidy removal, do you know that it benefited the governors more? It takes money to the state more. But many Nigerians don't know. They are expecting Tinubu to come and plant food for them and give them food on their table. The subsidy removal put more money in that your state governor's pocket. When I say governor's pocket, I don't mean his personal pocket. I mean the state account.
Increase FAC allocation.
It increased the allocation from the federation account.
These were the money that was supposed to be invested in agriculture. These were the money that was supposed to be invested in commerce. These were the money that was supposed to be invested in trade. But what are we seeing today? Nigerians are even expecting the president to own a farm in Abia State. What has Alex Oti done since he has been elected? And Akpabio what has he done in terms of agriculture? The fulcrum of our economy is what has he done in terms of commerce? Aba is one of the China that fetch more revenue for Abia State. They don't still have road. What has Sinfubara done? So many of the billions are channeled to the state governors. But what they do that the APC at the center doesn't understand is this political propaganda. Spend the money in taking the people's mind off the fact, of the truth. And you see people rushing to radio, TV, calling and all that on the street or the market, talking. Without fact, they don't even know where the problem lies. So the governor has succeeded in taking the minds of the people from the truth and focusing on the center that had no power to do certain things. It's an aberration. Today, if you go to Niger State, go and see what they are doing in terms of agriculture. Farming clusters are giving money. The people are making demand on the governor. Because the people now understood that more of the lands are under your custody. Your revenue has increased. We pay taxes and all that. So we need this money. They have more than 30 billion naira to alleviate the poverty of the people. But what are we seeing? Is it 30 billion naira that is the issue?
Okay.
Is the federal government, I think the federal government gave the bags of rice even before Christmas and all that. Did you see some rebranded that put their own pictures? Do you know some of these are even came from the federal? But some of the governors and political elites of the state rebranded this and put their picture. And this thing came from federal government for the governors and political leaders to share to the people. Okay. The same thing with the 5 billion and 2 billion that was given the other time for poverty alleviation. But some states turn it to their private money and some other, turn it as if it's their policy. This is the issues.
Okay, Mr. Amy. Now, Mr. Oscar, Akpabio having apologized to the state governors for alleging that 30 billion naira was given to them, do you think that is enough?
Akpabio is Akpabio.
Akpabio is a Senate president.
So are you telling me that as a Senate president, he does not have a first-class information? Are you telling me that the Senate president of this country, Nigeria, does not have a first-class information about the happenings, especially in this current government? You talk about a Senate president that is in charge of the legislative arms of government. The government that is saddled with responsibility of ensuring that our laws and all that are being implemented. And then such a person, number one citizen in that aspect, will come out and say so amount of money was sent to governors and come back tomorrow or later to say he apologized for political reasons and you expect me to believe it. You see, unfortunately, a lot of things we do in Nigeria, a lot of actions taken in Nigeria has always becomes political. The day Nigeria will do better is when Nigeria will decide to live up to expectations by ensuring that it actually, after politics comes governance. That was supposed to be the case. After politics, governance. Why must it be politics upon politics upon politics? When do Nigerians' government have time for governance? Why must it be politics upon politics? We are in 2024. We just came up from 2023, barely a few months old. Our government have not even stayed, the 2023 elected persons or representatives have not stayed up to a year. And as we speak, some the Senate president is declaring governors in state. The Senate president or the government is actually planning 2027 already, when we are still in 2024, barely few months in their first tenure. So what do we expect? I cannot take the apology of Akpabio serious. I will not take his apology to be serious. If it was an ordinary citizen that made that statement and come back to apologize to Nigerians, I will take it serious. If it was an NGO, an executive or CEO of an NGO or a youth leader like I am, or any other persons that come out to say such a statement and maybe later realized or get the true finding of this situation and apologize, I will take it serious.
Okay.
But not from a statesman, not from a citizen, number 3 man in this country that calls the president directly, that Mr. President calls directly. And then such a person will give out an information and then come back and say, I apologize for that statement. Please, you know, it is high time that Nigerians have to hold our government responsible for failure. It's right time Nigerians come out to hold our people. Why will you release 30 billion to governors? Why will you release 2 billion to governors? Why will you release 5 billion to governors? What happened? Why don't you use those money to go to those states as a and set your presence in those states? Why can't you use those money to actually set up something that can make the grassroots, the poor, benefit from it? Why can't you come up with an idea without sending this money to government? Why can't you create an opportunity that can make the people that will not look for government benefit directly without looking for who is a who or who knows who to be who? Because Nigeria is becoming a situation whereby I recommend you to be recommended. What about those of us that do not have those that will recommend us? What about those of us that do not have those that will speak for us? What about those of us that do not have people that will stand in for us? What about those of us that do not have someone that will mention our name where things is happening? How do we survive in this current system where it becomes government for the people and government for the cabal? How do we then do that? We are talking about a situation where government, you have money. You want to alleviate the level of poverty in your 36 states. And the best option was to send this money to governors, to the state government.
The 30 billion naira was not sent to the state government.
Well, who was it sent to?
There was no 30 billion naira sent to the state governors. That's why Akpabio has come out to apologize for even
saying it not the same Akpabio that said 30 billion was sent?
That's what we're saying. Now,
so how do we now know that it was not sent?
Governor Makinde came out to debunk that.
That he has not received his own.
He said he did not receive, and other state governors also debunked it. And
so
Akpabio now has come out to apologize. He said he got it from unverified source.
That's to tell you that from henceforth, we should start seeing our legislative arms of government to be a serious set of people. Now, that's what it means. That if Akpabio, the number 1 citizen, the number 1 person in the legislative arms of government, will come out and make such a bogus statement and come back to apologize that it was a mistake, that he did not get it from a verified source, that means Nigeria government is not serious. That means our president is not serious. The entire system is a failed system. Because we cannot have this system and then you have a senior president make a statement and come back to say apologize that it came from an unverified source. And they expect me that lives in a village to take it serious. It's unfortunate that we have this system of government. And it's so unfortunate that we have, just like we're talking now, we're saying now, NNPC is selling for 595 naira, 491 naira. That's NNPC owns filling station. That's NNPC owned filling station sell for 591 naira. Other local stations sell for at the rate of 750 naira. Meanwhile, the NNPC filling station that sells fuel at the rate of 591 naira does not have fuel. But the filling station that sells fuel at the price of 750 naira all has fuel across the state. All the filling station has fuel. Meanwhile, the one that sells at the rate of 591 naira, none of the NNPC filling station that sells at the rate of 591 has fuel.
Okay.
So what kind of government do we have? Is this a government that the people at the grassroots level can confide in? What happens? Why can't NNPC have the same fuel? Because they sell for 591 naira, they don't have fuel. 750 naira have fuel. What kind of system are we practicing? And we say we have a government, we do not have a government. Because what we have is a system that do not have concern for the well-being of the welfare of its citizens. And that's why we want this government to accept that they have failed in just their new system. Okay. You call this kind of pains that Nigeria passing through baby pains, baby step of pains.
Okay, Mr. Oscar. Okay, Mr. Oscar, we are already out of time. Mr. Emi, quickly in a minute.
See, until we understand, that is why Oyibo man says, when something is not properly understood, abuse becomes inevitable. I would advise every Nigerian to please go back and understand the system you practice. The Nigeria state, before we had the Federal Republic, if you go to the first chapters of the Constitution, says thus, the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall comprises of these states
and from Abia State down to Zamfara State were listed. And every Nigeria belongs to each of these states. Then chapter 7 of the Constitution, they set of what they call local government. And one of the functions of the local government in the schedules are recommended by the Constitution is for the local government to make economic recommendations to the state, because the people reside, every Nigeria reside in a local government, in a state, in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So sometimes the federal government will want to work with this, believing that the local government are doing their functions of the recommendation that are made to the state, and the state needed to implement them to the benefit of who? Of Nigerians. But the problem is that there is a gap, and Nigerians are not pushing. NNPC filling station, please, let's be, I bought for a few days, even the one at my for 591 naira, they have where I bought. This is part of the things. Let us try to get the information correctly. This on the joke side of it, you know, like my friend here, you know, vilify Akpabio for saying things that he didn't really, you know, verify before saying them, and NNPC filling station, some actually halfway. But
how many NNPC that,
so that is even if it's one, you say none, you say none.
How many NNPC
but I just tell you that I bought the
one out of how many?
I say I bought. That is the one I know. When did you buy? I don't say things that I don't know. That is
how many NNPC should you buy?
What I'm trying to say here is this.
No, how many NNPC did you buy for?
I don't go around the country.
So how many NNPC do you know?
The area I am.
I can sit down here and tell me how many do you know?
Gentlemen,
the one I know.
When did you buy the fuel?
One at a time.
One at a time. Buy for 2 days. Every day I buy for I'm living.
And every day they ask me. That's something you ask for.
Immediately I leave here.
Gentlemen.
So what I'm trying to say here is this.
It's okay. We are in a minute.
In less than a minute. Yes. Nigerians, you see, the Federal Republic of Nigeria belongs to you, belongs to me. It's in our hands to either destroy it or make it work. In political system, the rejections, supports, and demands are very necessary to make a political system work or to ruin the political system. When demands, rejections, and support are wrongly channeled, it does not produce any fruit. But when they are properly channeled, it produces fruit and changes things for socio-economic transformation. And I'm seeing that most of the demands, most of these the support we make are actually, you know, channeled to the wrong quarter.
All right.
We don't have one tier of government. We have 3 tiers of government. Our resources are distributed according to these 3 tiers of government.
Okay.
And functions are also assigned to each tier of the government to perform. So please check yourself, check the laws, and understand the system.
Mr. Oscar, you just have 30 seconds.
Thank you. My message to Nigerians is very simple, especially to the Nigerian youth, especially to those of us that belong to the less privileged community. I want to say this is the right time for the wake-up call. A clarion call is on all Nigerian youth, all Nigerian citizens, that we must not wait for government that is not ready to show us concern, to give us concern.
Okay,
we must be ready to take our concern by ourselves. This is not time to sit back and say government must work. This is time for Nigerians to come out and force the government. The government has not been so concerned about the Nigerians. And to the current situation, we have economic hardship that is facing us as we speak, which the government is doing nothing about it. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should stop dancing buga for Nigerians in the midst of the hardship. Okay. Nigerians cannot be suffering while the president sits back in the villa, be eating in the midst of his cabal, and be dancing buga. This is an unfortunate situation we find ourselves. And Mr. President must wake up to realization that Nigerians are hungry. We must take to the street to Mr. President to send the right message.
All right, Mr. Oscar. We are out of time, gentlemen. We are out of time. Thank you so much, it's okay. This is where it's
not going to appear with you again. This should be the last time.
All right.
This should be the first and last time.
Oscar, Mr. Oscar, you cannot. Mr. Oscar,
don't do that next time again.
Mr. Oscar,
I will tell you to it.
Mr. Oscar, you are on air.
I will fuck you up.
You're on air. All right, stay connected.
I don't interfere in your discussion.
Let's take a short break.
This should be the first and last time.
Let's take a short break, please. Thank you.
Don't ever try this again.
from the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains. Through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.